Welcome back. This is Billy with Coach Dooley's List. And once again, if you're enjoying these coaching videos, please like and subscribe to the YouTube page and also follow along on all of our social media platforms. Today, I'm here at Commerce High School with head girls basketball coach Michael Palmer. And Coach, I appreciate you taking the time and reaching out and look forward to talking with you.
I appreciate you stopping by. I always like to show off. I feel like we got one of the best gyms in the area, and I always like to show that off. And I've enjoyed tremendously watching all the wrestling, softball, whatever. I've kind of taken nuggets of things away from everybody. So I've really enjoyed. I think what you're doing is fantastic.
Well, I appreciate that. And I know right before we got on, too, I know you've been big in the basketball world in this area. And my child is actually doing something that you were, it helped to start. But I'll kind of let you talk about that. So just kind of tell everybody about your coaching journey.
Well, it started probably when I was in 7th or 8th grade. My mom signed me up for rec basketball, had never played, and was fortunate to get on a team coached by Dr. Dennis Clark. And man, that guy just changed my life. Like, it's kind of weird to love a sport so much and be new and not good at it. And that's and I probably was not good for as long as I played it. But man, I just loved everything about it. I love making a good pass, setting a good screen. Like, there was just so many things outside of just shooting the ball. And at that age, I wasn't very good at shooting. I didn't really understand time on task. I got out in my yard and shot over and over and worked on that craft. But from there, I was fortunate enough in high school, and I was blessed to go to Oconee. Before all the social media about we got the #1 school in the country, like, for me, it's always been the best. It just, so many people there changed my life. And when I got into high school, I had a teacher named Cindy Roach, Coach Roach. She coached multiple sports.
I know Coach Roach well.
Brian Dickens was another one. I mean, those two very early on kind of took an interest, not just in me, but in everybody. Like Coach Roach, I felt like it didn't matter if it was black, white, rich, or poor. She wanted every student to be educated and have opportunities. And Coach Dickens, man, I was always enamored with, when I'd have him in classes. Some coaches I feel like can coach and they can tell you how to do things, but some you can actually tell they've played. And I was just always enamored by what a great shooter he was and just how much he knew about the game of basketball. And so it was just a blessing to be at that high school when those two were there. And I knew right away, man, I want to be a basketball coach. The only thing, being a teacher wasn't really on my radar. I didn't realize till later on, you don't really get to do the high school coaching without the high school teaching or teaching at some level. So I wasn't really focused on my grades. I didn't have my real dad growing up, and that always was something that was kind of a hiccup or I let be a speed bump for me. And so just in high school, I made some silly decisions in terms of, I should have been studying more and taking care of that side of it. But when I got out of high school, I said, man, I want to get into this coaching thing. I just had a passion for it. And so I jumped into coaching at the Oconee Rec Department. And that was good. And I got to coach some all-star teams. But I'm like, man, there's got to be something more. And so I started a little travel program. And then kind of on the back end of that, most of my teams were in that 5th and 6th grade range. And I said, man, there's got to be a place outside of rec league where you can put these kids in and they can play regular basketball rules and they can kind of play by the schools they go to. And right. So from there, I started a thing called Northeast Georgia Feeder League. And at that time, it was boys and girls. But I don't know why, but I've always felt like I was just wired to coach girls. And I guess because I had, my first 2 kids were girls. But so from there, Patrick Jones took over the boys' side. It's called Athens Premier League. He's done a great job with it, and we work hand in hand. Mm-hmm. But I took over, stayed with the girls' side, and it's just grown. And I mean, it has just grown exponentially. And it's really cool to see the amount of, just a week ago, I was posting on social media about a girl, Bristol Kirsch. She plays at Cherokee Bluff. But, I met her when she was in 3rd grade, playing some games in the feeder league. Well, then from that, she came to one of my summer camps, and just a special player, and have just kind of followed her. Now she's signing with Notre Dame for soccer, and that's one story, but there's tons of stories like that where I've watched that kid play in feeder league, and now they're one of the top, like Ella David at Oconee. She's going to be one of the best girls basketball players to ever play at Oconee, and if not the best. And I've watched her in my league just be this phenomenal, hard-working kid who can really shoot the basketball. And now you see there's so many recruiting pundits talking about, she's one of the best freshmen in Georgia. So, I mean, you just see these stories, and it's like, man, and I'm not taking the credit for it, but I do feel like there's a small foundation of they're playing in my league. I've given them an opportunity to play with their teammates, their classmates, and play what I would say is kind of real basketball rules that kind of follow in with middle school and high school, so that they're fed right into it. But so I was kind of in the midst of starting that when my 5th and 6th grade team. The great thing that happened for me right around that time is a guy named Rodney Satterfield took the girls' job at North Oconee. It was right around the time it opened, and he had multiple kids playing. He was a football coach, but he also was going to coach the girls' basketball.
We had some daughters that were pretty good.
Yes, man. As a matter of fact, Brooke's still over there with Coach Willis now. But that's kind of dating how old I am. I was coaching her in 5th and 6th grade, but I had those kids, and basically I just was calling around to kind of the small private schools like St. Joe's, Prince Avenue, and we would go over there and play. And I think the attractive thing for them is, hey, here, this is an easy win we can put on there. This kid wants to bring these 5th and 6th grade kids over. But the fact that the school, North Oconee that's a bigger school, so even though it's 5th and 6th, I'm still pulling from a pretty good talent pool. So we went over to Prince, and at both times we played their girls, we won. And I never will forget Jeanette Looney. She said, "Man, I want you to come coach my middle school team." And I kind of laughed it off at first. I thought, she's just being complimentary, but she reached back out and was like, I think you do a good job. I want you to be over here. I like all the things you do. And that changed my life. I went and interviewed with Coach Ricketts, and, the rest is history in terms of, Prince is a special place for me because, they took me in, and then at that time, I thought I knew a lot about coaching, but, man, I didn't know anything about coaching. And so it was a place where I was able to grow and develop as a coach. And, for me, the great thing about working for Coach Ricketts is he gave me a lot of autonomy to, if I say, Coach, I want to start this camp in the summer. Right. The great thing that happened for me, I think 2 years into being over there, is they transitioned from kind of being landlocked on Prince Avenue to out to 78. And so when we got that gym, I mean, just a lot of opportunities to do things. And, he was always real supportive in anything I wanted to do. For me, it's just a special place because my oldest daughter graduated from there. I've got a son in 9th grade and a daughter in 10th grade that'll graduate from there, Lord willing. And so when I look back on my journey, that's there would be no Coach Palmer without Prince Avenue because they kind of groomed me. But in the process of, getting my master's and things, I think I had the greatest job. I was teaching lower school PE at Prince Avenue. I mean, that's a lot of my friends were like, "Man, you should never leave that job." And the great thing for me, it was kind of like for PE, when you're growing up, you don't realize the last time you're going to play wiffle ball. And I think about that sometimes, like there was things that we would do in there. I would kind of go back and teach kids stuff and relive, a lot of kids nowadays are like, "Coach, what is wiffle ball?" Like they didn't have no idea.
Well, I have to ask this: do you still square dance?
Now that's my wife will tell you I'm not a dancer. I mean, if I do that, it's going to be
well. Nobody was in 2nd grade.
I used to hate we didn't do it in PE, but we did it in music class, and you had to
Okay.
ask a girl, and it was I always that's one of those where if I could get in a car wreck for 3 days and not go to school, I'd
Yeah.
be good. But so I had, to me, that was the greatest job. I don't know that there's a better job than teaching lower school PE at Prince. And it was a huge blessing, and but I think just from growing up with not having my real dad and some of the, I thought, hey, I can overcome this. It's not a big deal to me. But, later on in life, I figured out, it was a big deal. It was something that I looked at and every day kind of bothered me. But I felt like a lot of my friends were saying, man, we need male teachers in public school really bad, especially in special education. And so from there, I just kind of took a leap of faith in terms of, hey, I want to make, a difference. And it's not that I don't think I could make a difference at Prince. I mean, I think the kids that I taught loved me. I hope, but when I got into public school, man, I was like, man, these kids need me. Like
Right.
some of them, and I'm not saying all of them, but some of them really come from some pretty tough circumstances where
Right.
they don't have a fridge full of food. They don't have 2-car garages with the newest cars or a big house. So as soon as I got in, uh, now I'm not a huge fan of all the paperwork. Sometimes I think we take away from building relationships by hours of paperwork. But as soon as I got in, I kind of told my wife, I said, man, unless God calls me somewhere else, I think I'm gonna teach sped till I die. Like not even till TRS kicks in, but there's such a need. Like it doesn't matter what public school you go to, there's going to be somebody who needs you.
Right.
They don't need the content as much because there's plenty of people who I feel like probably do that much better than me, but I feel like they need somebody investing in them. Like, hey, you can beat whatever issue it is. You can go to college. You can. I mean, if I can go to college and I had just horrendous grades, anybody can do it. If I can start a feeder league, anybody can do it. And so uh, I've been fortunate enough, though. The schools I've been at since Prince, I mean, I've worked with some tremendous special education people because I'm a guy that gazed into it. I didn't. My background's in health and physical education, but so many people were willing to take so much time to kind of invest and help me in the journey of. I would not say I'm an expert special education teacher, but I get excited to come to work because I know there's a difference that's going to be made, and I don't want any other job. Like if commerce tells me tomorrow, hey, we don't have a position for you, the next job I'm going to go look for is a special education job somewhere. I mean, it's just too much of an impact that you can make there to walk away. And I feel like right now in our society, I mean, it's just, again, it's a huge need.
No, I agree, and I was a special education teacher too, and that was one of the things that I miss about teaching is those relationships with kids that need it. And the cool thing is too, the longer you do it, you still keep in touch with those kids,
Oh,
just
yeah.
like you do with your athletes. Whether it's the fifth grader in the Premier League, or even the kid that struggled for 4 years, and then you get to watch them walk across the stage, and the first person they look at for you is come high five and those kind of things. Those are definitely the special things. So, going kind of back to basketball, you've started off your league, and you've been to Prince, and you said been to a couple other places. So now you always take things, like you talk about taking things from your high school coaches and getting to a place when you're doing school ball, a little bit different than doing the feeder league, and
Yeah.
obviously the kids are a little bit older, a little more advanced and stuff. So all the things you take from other places now here at Commerce, what do you want to build your program around, or what do you want it to be known for?
I really want it to be known for kids who not only work hard on the court, but they work hard in the classroom. They work hard at loving each other. I mean, whatever. Last year, as I coached middle school here, uh, we kind of caught. I'm a big Duke guy, and I love the concept of the brotherhood, and so we just kind of branded ourselves the sisterhood, and what I was selling is, friends and teammates are going to come and go, but sisters are forever. And so just tried to beat the kids over the head with speakers who would come in and say, this is why it's important to be cohesive and connected. And so the thing I hope people see, and we're not there yet. I'm not naive to think all my kids work as hard as they can in the classroom and in the weight room, and but I think that's what I come to work for every day, striving to how can I get us another day stacked up where we're working as hard as we can, loving each other as hard as we can, and not just working again. If all they learn from me is basketball and this is what it looks like to work hard, then I'll fire myself. I want them to learn, like, hey, the classroom is where educational opportunities, just opens doors when you get out of here. And I know some kids don't want to go to college, but if you're going to run a successful business, you're going to have to know how to add and subtract, checkbook, how to public speak, how to run technology. So I
You're going
hope,
to have to do at least one of those things. That is
yeah,
for sure.
so I hope. I mean, I feel like it doesn't matter if you go in the military, you're going to own your own business, you're just going to work for Coke or Toyota, or you're going to go to college, be a doctor or lawyer. I mean, you're going to have to work in the classroom.
Right.
There's just no, to me, there's just no way around it. And I had to do the same thing when I made a decision that I wanted to coach and teach. And so I understand, and I'm a guy with ADD, so it's hard for me to sit in the desk for 8 hours and learn. So I can relate to some kids, but in terms of what I want the program to represent, I want people in the stands to say, whether we win or lose, man, that team plays hard for that coach.
Right.
I mean, and I think every coach, I'm probably not the only coach that says that. I think every coach, that's a big compliment. Uh, I've seen coaches before, like you look at Tom Crean at Georgia, they struggled a couple years ago, but one thing the thing I always said watching them play is the kids still played hard for them.
Right.
And so win or lose, whether the kids like me or not, I just want the people in this community to see a product where they say, man, those kids play hard. I mean, you're not going to win every game. I mean, sometimes, there's a call that's made. Sometimes you're going against somebody with a much better roster. Maybe they got a lot of seniors, so they got a lot of experience. But the thing I think you can always control is your effort and your attitude. So I'm hopeful that that's the direction we're trending in. And for me, I feel like this area is just blessed with great coaches, man. I think, Madison County's got a great coach. I look at what Coach Olson at Academy's done. Katie David's she's got her program rolling. Coach Willis, I think he does. I think he's one of the best coaches in the state. The way he gets the kids in the feeder league. He's got a program called Hoop Troop. I mean, he's just so plugged in so well to so many things. And that's another thing that I hope people look at our program, just the way I look at his from top to bottom. I want people to say, man, that coach has got opportunities for second graders all the way up to 12th.
Oh, it's
and,
crazy over there.
I heard him say one time when he first got there, he reached out to me and said, hey, I'm Coach Willis, I'm new, and I want to get as many kids in the feeder league as possible. And I remember going to something where he wanted me to kind of speak to the parents about, what the feeder league's like. And I remember him saying so vividly, it doesn't matter if your kid's in second grade or 12th grade, they're Lady Titans. And I remember thinking, man, what a concept. A varsity coach just connecting second through 12th grade.
Oh, yeah.
And so I want people, and they look to this program when they're on the outside looking in, or if it's somebody who's got a kid involved, I want them to say, man, Coach Palmer's got second graders all the way up to 12th graders. There's opportunities, whether it's camps, clinics, knowing when somebody's birthday is and bringing them cupcakes, whatever. I want them to say the same things that I look and say when I see those programs like North Oconee, Athens Academy, just the schools who I think, really are on top of it.
No, and you bring up a good point too. And this is in any sport. Like camps are so important.
Mm.
You know, one of the big things we always do is at least one time. You try to do as many times, but scheduling logistics are always tough. At least let them play on your field. You know, your younger kids that are going to be there because that's the major leagues for them, or that's the NBA for them, or that's college for them. Those are the ones they're looking up to, and that's the next step. And you want them to take pride in what you're doing too. So no, I love that, and especially with your experience with with the Northeast Georgia and the Premier League and that kind of stuff. I think building that will be good. And so, all your coaching. This could go back to the young kids or when you got started. Something here I would say it could be on the court, off the court. What's one of your favorite stories from coaching?
Man,
You can tell as many as you want.
That would be tough.
So you got to go back to class.
I would say, one thing I think about, and I don't take any credit for this. I think, I worked under Coach Ricketts, who just allowed me the autonomy to do things. But there was a run over there at Prince where we won 59 straight games, and then I went up to varsity with him for 2 years and came back down. And I think it was game 65. We finally, our coach and I lost to Westminster. They had a really good team with Avery Clark and Mackenzie Evans. But I just remember, it felt like it was like later on, I'm like, man, I'm never going to win 59 straight games again. I mean, it was just we had so many good players at that time. The Makovic sisters were there. We had a young lady who coaches over there now, Bailey Rogers, Milliken Jarrett. I mean, it was just, we had Ansley Hall, who went to North Oconee. Then she just finished up at North Georgia. Maggie Campbell, Sabille Fokar. I mean, we just had a run. I mean, talk about a blessing. I mean, it didn't matter what play I called, they were going to score. I mean, you had all these kids who were very skilled in different areas, and they just loved basketball, and they were so blue collar. You just had all these parents who had kind of breathed into them that, if you want to achieve something, you got to work hard. And I just thought, man, how lucky for me to be in that spot and be coaching those kids. So when I think, that's something that I think back, like, man, what a blessing. And that's one of the things I love. I always think about when I go to Prince, pick my kids up, or I go there to referee a football game. I think, man, I love this place. Just the memories of coaching those kids. And but I would say one that recently stands out, and try not to cry when I tell the story. But so last year, we were undefeated going into the tournament, and we got to the championship game. Was playing a really good Bear Creek team. They had a girl who's about 6'1". She's going to be a freshman over at Winder now. But we'd beat them during the regular season, but all sports, it's hard to beat somebody twice, and the stakes are a little higher when you're. I feel like when you're undefeated and you're in that championship game, it's tough because if you lose, you still had a good season, but it's like you don't have that goose egg and you don't have that trophy. And so we get over there, and I feel like, hey, we've had good practices, and we're ready. We got a good game plan. And we get over there, and I notice one of my kids is not out there to warm up, and she was a starter. And so my assistant coach comes and says, hey, such and such forgot her uniform. And I'm talking about we got about 35 minutes for game time. And I'm like,
in there.
I'm like, what? And so I'm in panic mode, and I probably don't handle those things as well as I should. But so I immediately start calling people, trying to get them to go. She thinks she left them at the school, and there's people over there looking. And there were so many, like, this is a tight-knit community, so it's easy to get people to help when you need it. And so they couldn't find it anywhere. She don't know. It turns out she'd left her bag at home. Like, the bag that had that stuff in it was at home. And we had a girl who, she was an 8th grader. She didn't, she played a lot, but she didn't start. And generally for me as a coach, I play about 7 kids, and I just 10 kids on a team. I feel like 7 is kind of most of the time what you're going to get in. And so I don't know how much she was or wasn't going to play that game. I wound up just playing about 6, I think. But that girl had taken her in the locker room and gave her a uniform. I mean, I was sitting there like when I drove home, I thought, man, like talk about unselfish.
Absolutely.
Like I don't think I'll ever see that again. And so we won that game.
Not in today's world.
We won that game with a girl giving. I mean, we wouldn't have won that game if that wouldn't have happened. And then on top of that, and I don't even know as a coach or a person if I could have done this, but the referee went to the other coach and said, "Do you mind?" I think maybe there was something that was mismatched or something. I can't remember, but I remember them asking the opposing coach, and it was going to be kind of on her whether we got a technical to start every quarter or something. And so she's like, "No, I don't have any problems with it." And I thought, man, that's, you know, I felt convicted because I said, man, I don't know if I'm in a championship game if I could have done the same thing. And or if I'm that player, even though I know I may not play, I don't know if I could have gave my uniform to somebody and sat there on the bench not in uniform. And I just thought, man, whether it's in if it's in marriage, raising kids, coaching, teaching, God's constantly chiseling the selfishness off of me. So
no, that's a really, really cool story. I've actually had that conversation. My oldest plays soccer now, and we forget cleats, and we go, well, I can borrow them from somebody. I'm like, how is that fair to the others? And those kind of things. So to have a kid just on their own step up and do that,
especially
is really cool.
A middle school kid.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if I would have. I know I wouldn't have been mature enough in high school to make that decision, but certainly not as an 8th grade student. So.
Yeah.
That's probably one that's very recent that sticks out that I still think about sometimes, and I'm like, man, that's just was such a God moment.
Oh yeah, so. and too, one that you'll never forget, and a story you'll probably tell to your teams and stuff, and so kind of moving forward, I know like we said, you've coached these kids a lot of times since 5th grade, and then you get them and you see them, and when they get older, and I know just in talking to you, I know you keep in touch with a lot of your former players and stuff. So if any one of them ever came to you, or even one of your assistant coaches, or somebody said, "Coach Palmer, I want to be a head coach one day," what advice would you give them?
I've seen a ton of these videos, and I always think there's just really good advice shared by these coaches, regardless of what sport. But I think for me, I would kind of be on the other side of it in terms of being very realistic. And this, it may sound brash, but I would say if you're coaching and teaching, or let's just say you're a teacher and you're coaching, you're probably never going to be at home and you're never going to have any money. And I don't mean that to sound negative, but you're going to spend more time with other people's kids than your own.
No.
And you're not going to get rich doing this. When you add up the hours, so when I add up like getting in here at 6 a.m. for shooting and doing 4-on-1s in the afternoon and taking kids on rafting trips, when you add up the hours of your investment versus what you get on a coaching stipend, I mean you're not going to come out making $500 an hour. It's going to be much less than that.
I did the math one
time. I've done it too, and I would just say to that person, you're going to have to love the sport.
Yep.
And I've embarrassingly, I'll say in my life, there's a lot of times when I've loved basketball so much that it defines me. Like if I lose a game or lose a couple games, like it's hard for me not to dwell on it. And so you're going to have to love the sport, and you're going to have to love kids. Right. And that's, kids bring, it's an ever-changing process. You never know what kid's going to leave their uniform or what kid, this is a good kid, but dad's coaching from the stands. How do you, get that kid navigated through that? Or this kid isn't doing well in class. How can you come alongside them and without doing their work, how can you get them to be passing? And so I would tell my own kids, I would tell players, I would tell somebody that says they want to get into it, the same advice. You're not going to get rich, and you better love the sport, because if you don't, you're going to be miserable doing it. And it's just not going to be a good experience for you. And so I would say just make sure that you check those two boxes, because if you don't, man, life is too short to get up every day and be miserable. And so, for me, basketball, it's just been a huge blessing. I mean, I think God just, I don't know why He wired me to like it, and just constantly, I love to watch it. I've officiated it. I love officiating. Growing up, my dad, one fun fact that I forgot to mention talking about stories is the reason I took this job was my dad graduated from here.
Okay.
And so like I didn't have my real dad, but my stepdad, he adopted me, gave me his last name. And so the thankful thing I had in my mom and my dad is they both worked. Like if somebody was dying of cancer, you get up and go to work. If cars broke down, you get up and go to work. If you're sick, you get up and go to work. And so I just had this strong work ethic because that's all I know how to do is get up and work. But when this job was open, and I didn't really want to coach anymore, I thought, I'm old. The kids nowadays, it's a newer, entitled, delusional. Uh, it's not when I first got into coaching, and so I said, my time frame has kind of passed. But when this opened, because my dad graduated from here, I said, man, I want to take that job and go coach that middle school basketball team. And it reminded me, the first practice reminded me so much of my first year at Prince, where I I graduated from public school, never had any dealings with private school, so I didn't know what private school kids, I didn't know how hard they would work or what that would look like. But I just remember those kids, their willingness to do whatever I said and work so hard. And it reminded me when I got here, it was just like that. I mean, the kids just, everything I did, it was, or any drill I showed them or whatever I said, I mean, God, they worked so hard. And I was like, man, this is like when I was back at Prince. And so, you know, when I come in the door to coach or to teach, I think about, my dad just, he's the biggest Commerce football fan. He's the biggest Commerce community fan. Like, this is to him heaven on earth. Everybody that works hard has to come from Commerce. And so growing up, that's all I heard about. Right. Coach Lamb, Coach Savage. I've heard, all these stories. And so for me, it's a little bit about pride and coming through the doors. It's like, man, I got to give 100% today because, if not, I'd be letting my dad down, who, when I didn't have a biological dad, he stepped in and filled that gap. But, the other thing about this place, too, I'll share this real quick. On the SPED staff here, it's the best team I've ever been a part of. You got the lady that's kind of in charge of me, Wendy Sims. She's probably one of the greatest humans I've ever met. Got a guy named Charlie Smith who just got Teacher of the Year today. So when your SPED teacher gets Teacher of the Year, that'll tell you how well they're thought of. And so, because you don't see that very often.
Not in high school.
And got a guy named Bob Finch. You may know him. He's been in education and coaching for a long time. Been in a lot of places. Just a legendary. His whole family. His dad was a principal here. I mean, just legacy type family in terms of education. And worked with a guy, Wes Massey. This guy's walked by the Teacher of the Year plaque, and he's on there 3 or 4 times. And I share an office with a guy. If you walk out there, you'll see a picture of Chance McClure, one of the greatest wrestlers to ever do it here, who now coaches here. And just to come in and be a part of a team with him and Miss Mosley, and just to see how hard they work every day. I don't want to be the weak link on that team. Yep. And like I said, it's the greatest team I've ever worked on. So, so this is a special place, and I feel like this will be the last coaching stop for me. I don't think I've got a lot, until I couldn't probably go another 10 or 15 years. But I'm excited to, even if they only give me a year or two, I'm going to be excited for that and thankful for it and willing to help the next person who hops in this spot. But it's just been a great ride, like from Prince to, I taught Loganville Middle School for a little while, was at West Side that feeds into Appalachia, and there's a lot of despair in that West Side. I mean, there's great kids, but there was a lot of kids who struggled with stuff, and that was, I felt a little bit like it was ministry every day, going in there trying to pour into kids and just tell them you love them. And sometimes if you didn't give somebody something for their birthday, they wouldn't get anything. And so, there's that aspect of it, and that's kind of emotional driving home every day, navigating through some of those things. But when I got here, to me, and I've heard people say at times, this is God's plan or God's timing. Like, this was the first time I felt like, man, God really connected these dots. Like, I think early on I wanted to be the varsity coach at Prince or an assistant coach at Oconee. I never wanted to be the head coach at Oconee because I'm like, I love that place. I graduated from there. I don't want it to be ruined. I'll be the assistant. And time wise, I thought that stuff passed me by. And when I got here, though, and the opportunity presented itself, I'm like, man, this is what, when I hear in church or when I hear somebody tell a story and they reflect back on, it was God connecting these dots. Like, I said, man, God, I just went back over all these things and I said, man, God really connected these dots from Coach Ricketts to Coach Love, like everything in between. And there was times I probably messed it up. I tried to connect them myself, and I think sometimes that delays things. But I'm just super, super thankful and super blessed to be here, and super thankful for what you do, man. I'm always learning. So when I see all these people that you're interviewing, I'm like, man, this coach is going through that too, or oh, this is how this coach handles that. So uh, I would give all the credit for anything I do. It's been learned.
Right.
So
No, and I love what you said, connecting the dots, because that's really the biggest thing. Because I know sometimes, with doing these interviews, people want to talk more basketball or more wrestling or more baseball, but coaching is coaching, and I always say too, it's like, when we were sitting in Sunday school class with young families, and, when you hear another family say you're going through the same thing with their kids that they are, it's the same thing with coaches. It's not necessarily validating, but when you hear another coach say, yes, I'm struggling with the same thing, it helps to, somebody else has done it and then be able to work through things. And so connecting those dots too, one of the big things I try to do is anything I can do to help make a coach's life easier. And so the whole reason these interviews started was to kind of bring awareness to the website, which I'm trying to do a better job of promoting on the videos. And Coach Dooley's list is just a list of vendors, and it's not just uniforms. It could be balls. It could be, we're sitting on a wrestling mat right here. Could be, dirt for outside. Anything that coaches spend money on or businesses they use. And so I always try to promote those businesses. So who's one or two vendors that if that you have loved working with that you would refer to your coaching buddies?
Oh man, I've got two that I just absolutely. I mean, they're just my go-to guys. So uh, ever since I started my first basketball camp, and that was forever ago, I don't even know how I found this guy. I think I actually worked with somebody at Prince that said call them, but this guy's name's Haywood Thomas, and he has a t-shirt business called well, I say t-shirt, I mean he's got all kinds of apparel now, but it's called Old Guard Graphics.
Okay.
And I've used him for so long. He used to be, I would say I was using him when he was crawling, and now he's up just running. I mean, just going there. It's just he's moved to a different location. And it's more, going there. It's like a big factory. You got all kind of people printing shirts and just anything I've ever needed. The thing I like about him is when I put on something, whether it's an all-star game or whatever, I want people to see my passion for the sport, not just, hey, here's a guy trying to make money.
Right.
And so I'm sure in travel ball and different sports, there's a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
And so, you can just see in the work he does. I mean, he don't just send you a 2 cent graphic. Like, you can tell he's put some thought and some work into it. And so, like, I used him one time, and I said, man, I'll never use anybody else for t-shirts. This guy's like, he loves his work. And
Old Guard Graphics.
Old Guard
that's
Graphics.
a new one. I'll get them added to the website.
It's in Athens, and we've got a 5K coming up this weekend that he's actually doing our shirt for. But another one is Garrettson Sporting Goods. Tyler Garrettson, he's got kids at Prince, and his wife coaches volleyball over there. But I think, and I'm not knocking BSN, but BSN is a very big company, and so a lot of times it would be difficult sometimes to get in touch with people. But I like the guys who are going to show up, deliver the stuff. You look it over. If you need something, they come back. I mean, that kind of customer service is incredible. And so I've always used Garrettson Sporting Goods for whatever I could, whatever the schools will allow me to get through him, I'll get through him because I know he's local. He's a good guy. He loves the Lord. I mean, just those are two vendors that, if I'm going to order something, I'm trying to get it through them. I mean, I'll go through other people, but those are my top two guys, and I think, they both treat their businesses like a passion. Right. Hey, I'm going to get this for you. I'm going to get it at this price. I'm going to get it there by this date because I know you need it.
And that's what coaches want.
Oh my gosh, it makes the coaching job so much easier when you got, when you're worried, man, are my uniforms or my shooting shirts going to come in by the first game, and these parents, or like, hey, there's a delay, you're not going to get it for two, that's just not stuff coaches want to throw on their plate with all the other things going on. You're trying to scout people, and just that dependability and that consistency to customer service. I mean, those two guys, I just don't think you get any better than them. So those are two vendors I definitely want to plug and hope people will use them.
No, that's awesome. I'm going to get Old Guard added, and Garrettson's is on there. They've been, I would say, coach approved and highly recommended too. So, well, listen, Coach, I do appreciate your time and taking time out of the school day and stuff. And best of luck to you this season. Look forward to seeing what your team does.
Well, make sure you come out and watch a game. So we'll send you the
schedule.
So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Coach.